They knew something the masses never understood. Niccolò Machiavelli, dissecting the anatomy of power, discovered the brutal truth hidden beneath every throne, every empire, every crown. He saw that power is not given. It is not inherited. It is seized, clawed, ripped from the hands of the weak by those ruthless enough to take it. And he left behind the doctrine that still terrifies kings, fuels conquerors, and shapes empires. The doctrine that whispers, acquire power at all costs or be devoured by those who will. You live in a world ruled by predators, and whether you accept it or not, someone is always hunting you. They want your position, your influence, your resources, your respect. If you refuse to fight for power, you've already lost. Power is oxygen, and without it, you choke. With it, you bend reality. You command obedience. You become untouchable. In this monologue, I will hand you Machiavelli's 12 ruthless laws of power. They are not gentle, they are not moral, they are not fair, but they are real. Hear them, learn them, and if you have the courage, live them. Comment, I choose below if you're ready. First law, the mask of power. Power is never taken head-on. Strongest men in history wore masks, not armor. Why? Because to reveal your true intentions is suicide. You cannot walk into a room dripping with ambition and expect to survive. People fear hunger. They sense danger. And the moment they suspect your rise, they will conspire to cut you down. That is why you must learn the first ruthless law, the mask of power. You must appear harmless while remaining dangerous. You must speak softly while sharpening your blade in silence. Understand this. Humans are addicted to appearances. They judge not by truth, but by surface. They trust what looks safe, what looks agreeable, what looks familiar. So you give them the illusion. You smile, you nod, you feign loyalty. You play the fool if you must, but beneath the mask, your eyes are fixed on one thing only: domination. This duplicity is not weakness, it is strategy. Machiavelli himself warned that a prince who reveals his entire nature invites destruction. The mask is your shield. The hidden dagger is your weapon. Do not mistake honesty for virtue. The world does not reward truth. It rewards control. If they knew what you truly wanted, if they saw the fire in your ambition, they would fear you too soon. And fear, when premature, breeds resistance. Let them underestimate you. Let them misjudge you. Let them see only what you allow. That is how you advance through enemy lines without a blade raised against you. The mask also buys you time. Time to gather strength. Time to learn your enemy's weaknesses. Time to place your pieces before they realize the game has even begun. Then, when the mask finally slips, it will already be too late. They will see the predator only after you've tightened your grip around their throat. You are not told to lie for sport. You are told to master deception for survival. Remember this: lions roar, serpents hide. The serpent strikes first. This is how empires rise, in silence. This is how kings are made in the shadows. Comment below. I wear the mask, but I carry the dagger. Second law, control through fear, not love. You have been lied to all your life. They told you love builds loyalty, that kindness breeds respect, that if you give enough, people will never betray you. But Machiavelli knew the rot behind that illusion. He saw that love is fickle. It fades with convenience. It bends to circumstance. It dies the moment your usefulness ends. While fear lodges deep in the spine, it paralyzes. It anchors obedience beyond affection, beyond gratitude, beyond choice. And that is why you must always choose fear over love if you seek power that endures. Because love is voluntary, but fear is survival, and survival is not negotiable. When a man fears you, he cannot ignore you. He cannot cross you. He cannot even dream of rebellion without feeling the cold breath of consequence on his neck. But when a man loves you, he may still envy you, doubt you, leave you, betray you, and his love will not stop the knife when ambition whispers in his ear. So ask yourself, do you want followers who smile today but vanish tomorrow, or subjects who may hate you in secret yet tremble to defy you? Fear gives you permanence. Love gives you fragility, and fragility is death in the game of power. But remember, fear is not brutality. Fear is predictability. It is the iron frame that makes them measure every step twice before stepping against you. It is the silent reminder that consequences are inevitable. And in that inevitability, you own their choices. You must balance it with calculation. Too much cruelty breeds revolt, but controlled fear, precise fear, is unbreakable armor. Because when they respect your ruthlessness, they obey, not because they want to, but because they must. And when men must, you rule them forever. So you, the one listening now, you must decide whether you want to be liked or to be obeyed, whether you want fleeting affection or permanent command, because history crowns only those who chose fear. Comment below if you understand this law with the words "better feared than forgotten." Third law, manipulate perception, not reality. Reality is irrelevant. Perception is everything, and if you fail to master this law, you will forever be a prisoner in someone else's illusion. Because people do not act on truth. They act on what they believe, and belief is fragile, pliable, and easily bent by the one who knows how to shape it. And Machiavelli saw this centuries ago when he wrote that a ruler need not be virtuous, only appear virtuous, because the crowd does not demand authenticity. It demands theater. And the stronger your performance, the stronger their loyalty. You do not need to be moral. You need to appear moral. You do not need to be generous. You only need to let them think you are. And if behind the curtain you are cold, ruthless, and self-serving, it does not matter. Because perception cloaks reality, and men are content with appearances as long as they never pierce the veil. The true power player is an architect of illusions, crafting images, symbols, reputations that hypnotize the masses and blind them to the darker truth beneath. And you must learn this. Art because wars are lost, not when armies fall, but when narratives crumble, when perception is lost. So, protect your image like you protect your life. Because once people believe in the mask you create, you can command them to march into fire for you. Understand that the battlefield is not the world itself, but the minds of those who surround you. And if you can control what they see, you control what they believe. And if you control what they believe, you control what they will do. Reality bends to the perception you feed them. And that is why propaganda builds empires, rumors destroy kings, and legends outlive truth. So stop obsessing over what is real and start mastering what appears real. Because the world itself is not ruled by facts, but by illusions strong enough to make men fight, kneel, and die. Comment below if you see the truth in this with the words, "Perception is my weapon." Fourth law, cut off weakness without mercy. Weakness is a disease, and if you allow it to linger in your circle, in your habits, or in your decisions, it will spread like rot until it consumes everything you have built. Because weakness is contagious, it infects morale. It corrodes ambition. It poisons power from the inside. And Machiavelli understood this well when he warned rulers never to tolerate liabilities. For the fate of kingdoms has often been sealed not by enemies at the gates, but by weakness tolerated within. And you must understand that pity, sympathy, and second chances for those who drag you down are luxuries you cannot afford if you intend to rise. Because the weak will always beg, always promise change, always drain you with excuses. But the truth is brutal. People rarely transform. And if they do, it is not on your timeline. So you cannot gamble your power on their redemption. You must cut off weakness without hesitation. Remove it from your team. Cut it from your personal habits. Sever it from your thinking. Because the moment you hesitate, weakness metastasizes. And the stronger you are, the more parasites will cling to you hoping to feed. And you must learn to shake them off without guilt. For guilt is a chain forged by the weak to bind the strong. The ruthless law is this: if someone cannot carry their own weight, they will eventually pull you down with them. And mercy in these matters is nothing but disguised self-sabotage. So you must become surgical, precise, unemotional, like a general cutting diseased flesh from his army to save the body. And yes, it will make you look cold, but coldness is survival, because no empire has ever been preserved by sentiment. It is preserved by discipline, by the willingness to sever ties with liabilities before they drag the whole structure into ruin. Do not think this law applies only to people. It applies to your habits, to your thoughts, to your comforts. Anything that weakens your edge must be destroyed, no matter how small, because weakness left unchecked always grows. So look at your life, look at the ones around you, and ask yourself who or what is softening your power, dulling your blade, draining your will, and then understand what must be done. Comment these words below if you accept this ruthless truth. I cut weakness, I keep power. Fifth law, exploit human desire. Every man carries a leash, and that leash is his desire, because desire is the most predictable weakness in the human animal. It drives kings into ruin. It makes soldiers betray their generals. It makes merchants gamble their fortunes. And it makes leaders expose their vulnerabilities. And if you learn to see the hunger in others, you will never run out of strings to pull, because desire is endless. It is never satisfied. It always wants more. And that is precisely why it can be exploited. Machiavelli understood that men are not moved by virtue but by self-interest. They do not follow because of loyalty, but because they believe you can feed what they crave. So if you want obedience, you must position yourself as the one who can satisfy, or at least appear to satisfy, their hunger. Whether that hunger is for wealth, status, validation, or pleasure. Because once you control what they desire, you control their will. And once you control their will, you control their actions. Never forget, greed is a leash, lust is a leash, envy is a leash. And when you tug on these leashes, men will drag themselves wherever you want them to go, thinking it was their idea all along. But you must be ruthless in this, because the naive man believes desire unites people, while the Machiavellian knows desire divides them, sets them against each other, and gives you the throne, while they claw at scraps. Learn to promise what they want, but deliver only enough to keep them hooked, because fulfillment ends control, but desire maintains it. And when their hunger burns, they will cling to you, beg from you, serve you, even worship you. So long as they believe you are the gatekeeper to their satisfaction. But guard yourself as well, for the same truth applies to you. If you cannot master your own desires, someone else will exploit them and own you. And that is why the first rule is to chain your hunger. The second is to exploit theirs. For power is not built on feeding men, but on keeping them hungry and directing that hunger toward your advantage. Comment below to anchor this law into your mind. I command desire. It does not command me. Sixth law, silence as a weapon. Power is not only in what you say, but in what you refuse to say. And silence is one of the most terrifying weapons you can wield, because men reveal themselves when they speak, but conceal nothing when you refuse to answer. And in that void, their minds betray them, filling the silence with fear, doubt, and speculation, which is far more dangerous than any words you could have delivered. And Machiavelli knew that rulers who speak too much give their enemies ammunition, while rulers who speak little force others to reveal themselves first. When you practice silence, you create an imbalance, because humans crave certainty. And when you deny it, they lean in. They grow restless. They try to please. They over-explain. And in their nervous unraveling, you gather truths they never meant to give. While you remain untouchable, unreadable, unfathomable, the weak man talks to prove his worth. The strong man withholds words to prove his control. And when you speak sparingly, each word you do release lands like a hammer, amplified by the silence that surrounds it. Silence keeps people guessing. It forces them to respect what they cannot predict. It becomes a cloak of mystery that makes others cautious, careful, hesitant. And in that hesitation, you win. The art is not to remain mute, but to speak only when your words will cut deepest, to weaponize your timing, so that when you break silence, the room shifts, the power tilts, and every ear hangs on your sentence. Understand that the more you explain yourself, the more you cheapen your authority. But the more you allow silence to guard you, the more people project power onto you, even if you've said nothing at all. Because silence breeds imagination, and imagination breeds fear, and fear cements control. So master the weapon most men neglect: the pause, the refusal, the calm stare. That forces others into confession, and you will rule conversations, negotiations, even relationships without lifting a blade. Comment below to seal this law into your psyche. My silence speaks louder than words. Seventh law, divide and rule. Unity is the dream of the weak, but division is the tool of the strong. Because when men are united, they become dangerous. They share power, they share courage, they share ambition. But when you divide them, you weaken them. You turn their eyes away from you and toward each other. And that is the essence of rule. Keep your subjects too busy fighting one another to ever fight you. And Machiavelli saw it clearly. A ruler who allows factions to grow strong enough to unite will fall, but a ruler who keeps them divided will reign unchallenged. Understand this: human beings are not naturally loyal. They are naturally envious, competitive, jealous. And you can use these instincts like daggers, placing subtle wedges between allies, feeding small doubts, rewarding one more than another, giving praise unevenly, whispering suspicions at the right moment. And before long, those who could have stood together against you will instead be tearing each other apart while you sit untouched. Untouched, because their fury never points upward but sideways. You must never fear being hated as much as you must fear being ignored, for hatred can be useful, but a united opposition is fatal. So you must learn to fracture loyalties, to scatter allegiances, to ensure no two men ever fully trust one another under your rule. Even in your own inner circle, never allow them to bond too closely without you at the center, because closeness breeds conspiracy while distance breeds dependence. And if they depend on you more than each other, you remain indispensable. Division is not always loud, and sometimes it is subtle, a delayed response, a withheld gift, a secret revealed to one, but not another. And in these quiet cuts, you slice unity into ribbons before it ever becomes a threat. This is not cruelty. This is preservation, because power cannot survive among equals. It survives by ensuring no one beneath you ever sees himself as your equal, and that requires constant engineering of mistrust. If you want to last, you must learn to make men clash over scraps while you feast. And that is how kingdoms endure for centuries. Comment below to claim this truth as your own. I rule because they divide. Eighth law, master emotional detachment. Emotion is the enemy of power, and the one who cannot detach from his feelings is forever enslaved by them. Because anger makes you reckless, love makes you blind, pride makes you careless, and fear makes you hesitate. And in the arena of power, hesitation is death, blindness is ruin, and recklessness is suicide. So you must carve out the part of yourself that clings to emotion and replace it with cold logic. Because only in detachment do you gain clarity. And Machiavelli knew this well when he observed that princes must act against mercy, against faith, against humanity if survival demanded it. And such acts are impossible for those who drown in their own sentiment, but effortless for those who have mastered detachment. Understand this: emotions are natural, but they are also weapons, and your enemies will provoke them. Your rivals will exploit them. Your followers will test them. And the moment you lash out, break down, or reveal too much feeling, they will use it as leverage against you. And so you must become a fortress, calm under pressure, unmoved by flattery, unbroken by insult, and indifferent to betrayal. For betrayal is inevitable, and yet the detached man turns betrayal into advantage because he does not respond with rage, but with calculation, always asking, "What does this event give me? How can I turn this pain into leverage? How can I make loss into gain?" While the emotional man merely collapses into despair, the detached man transforms everything into fuel. Coldness is not cruelty. Coldness is control. It is the ability to hold the blade steady while others shake, to make decisions that seem ruthless but are in fact necessary, to sacrifice what is sentimental in order to preserve what is essential. And you must realize that most men cannot do this. They are ruled by love, jealousy, fear, or pride. And that is why most men will never rule. But if you train yourself to master your own emotions, you will become untouchable because they cannot predict you. They cannot sway you. They cannot break you. Comment below to lock this law into your blood. I feel nothing. I calculate everything. Ninth law, turn betrayal into power. Betrayal is not an accident. It is a certainty, because men are selfish. They are weak. They are hungry. And when ambition whispers to them louder than loyalty, they will turn on you without hesitation. Yet the fool collapses when betrayed. He takes it as an insult, as an unhealable wound, while the Machiavellian sees it for what it truly is, a gift, an opportunity, a signal that reveals hidden truths, because betrayal exposes the ambitions of others. It shows you who can be trusted and who cannot. It unmasks the masks, and in that moment, you are given clarity that loyalty could never provide. And this is why you must never cry at betrayal, but dissect it. Never despair at it, but weaponize it. When someone betrays you, they are handing you the keys to their weakness. For betrayal is rarely clean. It leaves trails, it leaves vulnerabilities. And if you are ruthless enough, you can turn their act of disloyalty into a noose around their own neck. Use their betrayal to justify their destruction, to rally others behind you, to tighten your grip on power by showing the cost of disobedience. Machiavelli knew that men who betray are often useful twice. First, when they expose themselves, and second, when their punishment becomes a warning carved into the minds of everyone watching. For nothing strengthens loyalty more than the spectacle of a traitor falling, not in secret, but in the open, crushed as an example. But sometimes the wiser path is not immediate punishment. Sometimes the betrayer can be more useful alive, controlled, monitored, fed just enough. Rope until he leads you to others conspiring in the shadows. Because one traitor tolerated is often the bait that exposes many. And so you must learn the art of restraint, knowing when to strike instantly and when to let the cancer grow just enough that you can cut out the whole tumor. And never forget, betrayal is also your mirror. It shows you where you were blind, where you trusted too easily, where you failed to instill enough fear or respect. And so, every betrayal, no matter how painful, is a lesson sharpening your edge, making you harder, colder, untouchable. Because the more you endure betrayal without breaking, the more dangerous you become, while others crumble at the first sign of disloyalty. Turn betrayal into leverage. Turn it into narrative. Tell the story of the traitor in a way that cements your own legend, and then move forward with even more control than before. For power is not about avoiding betrayal. It is about bending it into your advantage so completely that your enemies curse the day they dared to cross you. Comment below if you understand this ruthless truth with the words, "Betrayal feeds my power." 10th law. Control information, control reality. Information is the bloodstream of power. And he who controls it does not merely influence reality. He manufactures it. Because truth is never enough to move the masses. Perception is, and perception is built from the fragments of information men are allowed to see. And Machiavelli knew that rulers who allowed truth to flow freely were rulers destined to be overthrown. For the unfiltered truth breeds rebellion, but the curated narrative breeds obedience. So you must understand that controlling information is not optional. It is survival. Because every whisper, every rumor, every headline, every secret that drips into the minds of the people bends their understanding of the world. And if you are not the one shaping that understanding, someone else is, and that someone else will own their loyalty. You must never allow reality to define itself. You must decide what reality looks like, and then you must flood it into the eyes and ears of those beneath you until no other version of the story survives. For men are not investigators. By nature, they are consumers. They do not question what is presented to them if it arrives with authority. And that is why propaganda, manipulation, and censorship are the silent weapons of every lasting empire. When you control information, you control the past by rewriting it. You control the present by narrating it. And you control the future by predicting it. And this trinity of control makes you untouchable because the one who controls the story controls the actions of those who believe it. And belief is stronger than fact. Belief is stronger than experience. Belief is stronger than reason because belief is emotional, and emotion moves men to act against their own interest in service of the vision you have crafted for them. You must learn this. Silence your enemies not with blades but with invisibility. Drown out their voices not with debate but with volume. Overwhelm the crowd with your version until no space remains for contradiction, and they will follow you not because you force them, but because they cannot even imagine another path. Information is war, and wars are not won by who has the truth, but by who controls the microphone. And so you must never reveal everything. You must feed partial truths, staged images, strategic leaks. You must decide what the crowd knows and when they know it, because the timing of information is as important as the content, and a secret revealed too soon can weaken you. But a secret revealed at the perfect moment can destroy your rival. Even in personal relationships, this law reigns. Do not reveal your full intentions. Do not reveal your full story. Drip only what strengthens your image, what fuels mystery, what sparks respect. Because the less they know, the more they imagine. And imagination often builds you into something larger than life, something legendary. And legends are harder to kill than men. Control is not about truth. Control is about monopoly. Monopoly over what enters the mind of others. Because once you occupy their minds, you own their choices. And owning their choices is owning their future. Look at the empires of history. Rome, the church, monarchies, corporations, nations. They did not survive by allowing every man to define reality. They survived by defining reality for every man. And those who resisted were silenced, erased, or ridiculed until their voices disappeared. And this ruthless law has not changed. It has only become sharper, more technological, more invisible. But the principle remains eternal. Reality belongs to whoever has the authority to declare it. So train yourself to be the gatekeeper of information. Train yourself to feed perception like a steady drug that the masses become addicted to. And once addicted, they will defend your lies as if they were truth. Because men do not fight for truth. They fight for the reality that makes them feel secure even if it is false. So do not waste your time arguing with facts. Drown facts with narratives. Because narratives rule empires. And if you control the narrative, you control the empire. Comment below if you see the ruthless genius of this law. I control the story, therefore I control the world. 11th law. Always be feared more than trusted. Trust is fragile. It is as thin as glass, as temporary as morning fog. And if you build your empire on trust, you are already doomed. Because men's loyalty changes with the wind. Their promises are as weak as their appetites, and their gratitude expires the moment their needs shift. But fear is different. Fear is bone deep. Fear lives in the marrow, and once you instill it, it does not leave easily. It does not fade when circumstances change. It does not dissolve when someone whispers against you. Fear stays, fear commands, fear binds. And this is why Machiavelli declared without hesitation that it is safer to be feared than loved. For love is voluntary, but fear is inevitable, and Inevitability is the foundation of control. You must understand that men admire those they love, but they obey those they fear. And in the end, obedience is the currency of power, not affection, not admiration, not warmth. Because admiration cannot stop rebellion, but fear can. Love cannot silence betrayal, but fear can. Warmth cannot prevent envy, but fear forces it underground. And so if you must choose between being trusted and being feared, the ruthless man always chooses fear. Because trust is optional, while fear is non-negotiable. But hear this carefully. Fear is not brutality. Fear is not chaos. Fear is not sadistic cruelty. For cruelty without discipline breeds revolts. It breeds desperate enemies with nothing left to lose. But calculated fear, precise fear, measured fear, this is unbreakable because when your presence alone carries the weight of consequence, men hesitate, men obey, men measure their words, their movements, their choices, not because they trust you, price of defiance. In your rise, you must not waste time chasing trust, because trust will always fail you. It will always betray you. It will always crack under pressure. But fear does not betray. Fear does not waver. Fear does not need to be renewed. It simply lives in the shadows of your reputation, and it follows you into every room like an invisible army. Think of the leaders who were loved, adored, even worshipped. They fell the fastest because love turns to disappointment the moment expectations are not met. But the leaders who were feared, even hated, lasted longer because fear is not dependent on satisfaction. Fear is dependent only on survival, and survival overrides affection every time. You must accept the cold truth that it is better to be hated yet obeyed than loved yet ignored. And if you are hated but feared, you still command. But if you are loved but not feared, you command nothing. The world will tell you to be kind, to be understanding, to be approachable. But those who rise to the highest peaks of power know this is a trap. For approachability makes you common, and common men are devoured. But the one who carries fear in his aura is never approached without calculation. He is never spoken to carelessly, never dismissed, never forgotten, because fear engraves itself deeper into memory than love ever can. You must therefore cultivate this carefully. Be the storm they hope never to face. Be the consequence they hope never to provoke. Be the presence that tightens their throats when they think of disobedience. For this kind of fear is not built overnight, but through consistency, through calculated displays of ruthlessness, through punishments that are swift, decisive, unforgettable, not constant brutality, but sharp lessons carved so deeply into memory that the lesson is passed on in whispers long after the act. And when people fear you, they will still smile in your presence, still offer their words of loyalty, but beneath their words runs the current of survival, and survival ensures obedience, far longer than affection ever will. So carve this into your mind. Love fades, trust breaks, but fear endures. And in a world ruled by predators, endurance is everything. Comment below if you into your blood. I choose fear over trust. 12th law. Never stop ascending. The greatest mistake of kings, generals, and conquerors is not that they fail to seize power. It is that they stop, they pause, they rest on the throne as if the climb has ended, as if power is a mountain with a peak that once reached secures safety forever. But Machiavelli knew the darker truth. Power has no summit. It has no final resting place. It is a staircase without end. And the moment you stop climbing, the moment you stop ascending, you begin to descend. Because power is never stable. It is always shifting, always contested, always bleeding. And if you think you can secure it once and relax, you have already signed your death warrant. For there is always someone hungrier, colder, more ruthless waiting to drag you down. You must accept this law with the marrow of your bones. Never stop ascending, because in the pursuit of power, Stasis is death, and only movement guarantees survival. Only ambition guarantees dominance. Only the endless hunger to climb higher guarantees that no one will overtake you. Men grow weak when they grow comfortable. They dull their blades when they believe the battle is over. They soften their resolve when they believe they have won, and that softness invites predators. For the world is nothing but a field of wolves, and wolves smell weakness, they smell stagnation, and they attack it without hesitation. You must therefore cultivate eternal hunger, eternal dissatisfaction, a relentless drive that never lets you rest. Because rest is the illusion your enemies want. They want you to believe you are safe, secure, untouchable, so they can sharpen their knives in the dark, waiting for the moment you stop moving, waiting for the moment you exhale, waiting for the moment you lower your guard. To never stop ascending means to make growth your religion, evolution your creed, ambition your blood. It means never allowing your empire, your influence, your mind, your body, or your spirit to rot in the comfort of enough. Because enough is the lie that precedes ruin. Enough is the lullaby whispered to rulers before they are overthrown. Enough is the trap that turns lions into sheep and kings into corpses. And so you must reject it completely. You must see power not as a destination, but as an infinite ascent, an endless game where the rules change, but the objective never does. Grow, expand, rise, dominate. Never believe you can remain still, because stillness is regression. Every day you remain the same. Someone else sharpens, someone else strengthens, and soon they surpass you. And when they do, they will show no mercy, because power is not inherited forever. It is stolen daily. It is defended daily. It is earned daily. And the man who forgets this truth wakes up one morning dethroned, humiliated, destroyed by someone who refused to rest. So you must train yourself to love the climb more than the throne. You must learn to hunger for the pursuit itself, because the pursuit sharpens you while the throne dulls you. The climb keeps you dangerous while the throne makes you vulnerable. And history is littered with rulers who thought the throne was the goal, when in truth the throne is the beginning of the climb, not the end. Alexander conquered the world before 30 and died restless because he realized there were no more worlds to conquer. Caesar crossed the Rubicon because peace was unbearable. Napoleon crowned himself emperor because no crown was high enough. Every man who tasted true power understood that stopping is impossible, that pausing is ruin, that endless ascent is the only path, because power is like fire. It dies the moment you stop feeding it, and the man who stops feeding it becomes ashes. This law must be written into your very soul. You must reinvent yourself constantly, expand, constantly conquer constantly. Even in times of peace, you must prepare for war. Even in times of victory, you must plan for the next campaign. Because the world belongs to those who are never satisfied. Those who climb even when the mountain seems conquered. Those who look down from the peak and see not security but danger. Because the higher you climb, the more enemies you attract. The more threats circle you, the more danger hunts you. And so your only defense is to climb higher still, to place yourself so far above them that their daggers cannot reach you, their envy cannot touch you, their conspiracies cannot corner you. For men can conspire against a king, but they cannot conspire against a god. And gods are made by endless ascension, by the refusal to stop when others quit, by the cold, relentless drive to move upward without mercy, without rest, without apology. So engrave this final law into your blood. Never stop ascending, because the day you stop is the day your enemies win, the day your empire crumbles, the day your name is forgotten. And if you want to live not as a man, but as a force, if you want to be remembered not as a ruler, but as a legend, then you must never ever stop climbing. Comment below to seal this eternal law into yourself. I will never stop ascending.